So let's start a mini-series on chord-based licks. Today we'll look at a basic idea that comes from blues but crops up in just about every other genre as well. It's the idea of moving from minor to major. And if you've studied a bit of music theory, you'll know that the fundamental difference between major and minor sounds in music concern the third note of the scale. Taking our C major scale as an example, to create the C major chord, we take the first, third and fifth notes from the scale. Then, to turn the major chord into minor, we flatten the middle note of the chord, in this case E. So let's take a look at how to apply this idea. Here's a starting point that I think many of you will be familiar with, the E-shaped bar chord. And what I've done in this diagram is simply label the notes in terms of where they belong in the major scale. What I call interval labelling. This enables us to apply ideas to any other chords of the same type, regardless of key. Now, let's zoom in on the three notes on the second, third and fourth strings. And you can see that we have a perfectly formed major triad. The three notes of the C chord, all in what we call root position order. And you can see that I've marked the root note with the letter R and coloured it red, as this is our reference note. So let's find this shape for, say, A major. So we start by finding the note A on the fourth string, which is here at the 7th fret. So here's our A major triad. Draw your attention to the middle one of these three notes that we're holding down, because this is the third. Remember, this is the note that gives the chord its major tonality. So to change this chord to minor, we simply take this note down a fret to give us a flatted third instead. That's our minor triad. And you can hear the difference. Major, minor. So, having established all this, we can now begin to play around with the idea of creating chord-based licks by using the movement from minor to major. Using a hammer-on from the flat third to the third, for example, or a slide, or a bend, and then bouncing off other notes in the chord, off the notes from the fourth chord, a chord a fourth above. So that's our E-shaped chord. If we move to an A-shaped chord and bounce off that, that's a very common trick indeed. At this stage, I suggest pausing the video and spending a bit of time messing around with those ideas to create your own versions of some of those licks and riffs. Let's now apply the same idea, starting with the A-shaped bar chord as our reference. Again, in the first diagram, I've labelled the intervals and isolated a perfect root position triad on 3 adjacent strings. This time it's the top 3 strings. In the third diagram, you can see how we change this to a minor triad by flatting the third. So here's our A-shaped movable major triad for a D major chord, rooted here on the 3rd string. And again, we can start experimenting with different techniques for changing the chord from minor to major, using hammer-ons, bends, slides, and again you can bounce off other notes from the chord, including this high root note here at the 10th fret, and you can bounce off a shape that implies the chord a 4th higher. So we've got our A shape here that we're working within, so we think in terms of that D shape there, and we can just take that shape out of that. Once you have a few ideas worked out using each of these chord shapes as a point of departure, then let's try working over some changes from one to the other. So, starting with the chord A using the E shape, throw in a few full 6-string chords just to help give yourself a bit of rhythmic structure. Change up to the chord of D using the A shape, and then throw in a few licks based on our shapes, and back to A. Of fun for you there. In the next lesson, we'll expand this idea to include the C and D shapes as well. If you found this little video interesting, please click on the like button if there is one, or leave a comment, and do feel free to share the video with your friends. And if you'd like to gain full access to all our guitar teaching materials, please visit the Secret Guitar Teacher site and take a free look round at what's available there. See you again soon.